everybody. Welcome to Screen Reading Troubleshooting by Cody LaPlante. This is the first in a series of 3 videos, or excuse me, trainings that he's going to be doing for us. This is being brought to you by Maryland School for the Blind Outreach Department Braille Challenge webinar series. I put in the chat box a link to the Braille Challenge website, and you can just Google Maryland Regional Braille Challenge. And if you click on our calendar of events page, you will see what else Cody is doing for us. And we have 2 other presentations as well. I'm going to go ahead and formally introduce Cody. Cody is a teacher of the visually impaired. He believes all people with visual impairments can have computer access skills. He has a master's degree and graduate certificate in assistive technology. He's co-founded IT to provide live and asynchronous training options to children, adults, professionals, and parents to ensure that all people with visual impairment can have access to a computer like everyone else. I think we're very, very lucky to have Cody. He has lots of new and fresh ideas and is really going to make this presentation dynamic. So I hope you have a lot that you can take away from this. We are going to be using the chat feature this evening to ask questions throughout the presentation. I'll also be doing a very quick poll at the end on my end, but Cody will also be doing some throughout his presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. And if we don't have any questions right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Cody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. So, hey, everybody. Again, my name is Cody LaPlante, and it is awesome to have you all here. We're doing a topic that I think a lot of people have requested and a lot of people really get frustrated with, and it's troubleshooting with the screen reader, right? And this is going to go over a lot of different screen reader tips and tricks and techniques, but we're really going to be focusing on that troubleshooting and what to do when troubleshooting. Just some points of to note before we get started is if you do have any questions, whether or not they're relevant, whether or not, you know, if it just pops into your head, throw them in the chat, and I'll be asking Jackie to read some of those questions as we go through. I am totally okay if this gets totally derailed. I think that you guys' opinions and contributions are very valid, and I want to make sure that we kind of stick to what you all need out in the field, because I know that trying to simplify everything into a generalization doesn't really work for every single case. So I really want to hear those specific cases and those specific questions that you guys have. That's number 1. Number 2, I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw that I have my Maryland Regional Braille Challenge t-shirt on. I got it yesterday. And so that I'm sporting that. And thank you so much to the Maryland School for the Blind. My first family, my first job as a TBI there. You guys will always be kind of have a special place in my heart, and I really appreciate you all inviting me on here. So thank you, Jackie, and all the people at MSB Outreach. So yeah, with that, we are going to start on this document. Now, the document is in the chat box. If anybody needs it, just throw it in there. And Jackie, if you could throw that link in there if anybody else needs it. But I'm going to share my screen here just in case you don't have the document. And I'm going to... We're just going to start, and I see a lot of people in here. We're just going to start with a quick overview of what this is going to look like, okay? So, of course, we have our learning objectives here at the top. We're going to start first with a little bit of a discussion, okay? We have some poll questions for you all. Jackie, did you have a poll that you wanted to do before we get started?
No, I do not. I just have a poll we're going to do at the end.
Cool. Gotcha. So we're going to start out with some poll questions just so I can get an idea of where you all are standing and what we can kind of work on during the session. We're then going to talk about some of the issues that are involved in troubleshooting. If we find a sticking point with a screen reader, what are those issues really caused by? We're going to go over a troubleshooting process, what to do when you have a sticking point on a screen reader. And then this is kind of my favorite point and why you guys might want to keep this document. We're going to go over what we call keys and gates, right? So what are the keys of the software? And we're going to talk about what that means in a second. So kind of like, what are the things that you can do in order to troubleshoot? And then what are the gates? What are the things that you need to unlock, right, with those keys, okay? And we kind of put this in a table. At the very, very end, if we have time, we're going to go over some troubleshooting scenarios. So what we're going to do is I'm going to simulate a scenario that might typically happen with a screen reader, and we're going to use the keys the gates and the troubleshooting process to kind of see if we can troubleshoot these really common issues. And this is a place that you guys can really get engaged in and start guessing as to what to do, okay? So let's just start out with our polls. I don't want to give too much information. I want to see what you guys say. But if you are in the document, you can see it says connect to our poll on the computer, okay? When you get onto that poll, it's going to ask you our first question. Which screen reader are you most interested in troubleshooting? Is that NVDA, JAWS, Chromevox, VoiceOver for Mac, okay? You can either click on this link on the computer and will get something like this, all right? So you can choose NVDA, JAWS, Chromebox, VoiceOver for Mac. Or if you have your phone, you can text Cody L901 to that number 37607. Okay. So let's see that question is active right now, and it looks like people are already starting to answer. I see JAWS is really popular, VoiceOver for Mac for sure. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to answer, but as you start to answer, I'm going to tell you that a lot of screen readers are really, really, really similar. Okay. And that's something that I think a lot of people say, I want to learn JAWS, or I want to learn NVDA, or I want to learn VoiceOver. Well, the great thing for us as professionals and as students of screen readers is that because NVDA, JAWS, VoiceOver, Chromevox, because they steal each other's ideas, a lot of the patterns that they use in order to get access to an operating system are really, really, really similar. Okay. So that's really, really great for us, especially in troubleshooting, because a lot of the techniques we're going to go over today, although we will be focusing on JAWS and NVDA on a PC, just because that's what I'm on right now. Although we will be focusing on those two, will still be applicable to VoiceOver or Chromevox. Okay. All right, awesome. So I see a lot of JAWS, right? 63% of the people here say JAWS. NVDA is 13%. VoiceOver for Mac, 13%. Chromevox, 13% for sure. And that went down, came back. Okay, so that gives me kind of a good idea as to where we're kind of starting from. I'm going to move on to our next question. And this one I'm going to activate. So you should see that now. Oop, activate. You should see that now. And it says, what are your screen reader pain points? And just kind of to reiterate this, or to kind of clarify this, what issues do you commonly have with a screen reader? Now, the way that this question works is you can either type in a response, type in exactly what your issue is, or as we start to see these questions pop up, you can upvote or downvote people's responses. So if you see something that you do see as an issue for yourself, you can say, yeah, upvote. I definitely have that issue as well. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that as well. So what are your screen reader pain points? Some things that you might say, I just had a client this week say, I go to these webinars and I see, I understand it and I can wrap my head around it, but then when I go and do it, it doesn't, I'm like, get stuck somewhere, right? I get stuck, or it might not read. JAWS turning off on its own is what I see. Okay, navigation that's efficient, right? So that is a great one, and we're going to talk about that as well. So if you can navigate, but it takes forever, right? You might want to get a little bit more navigation efficiency in there. I cannot get the key commands and the 3 methods to work, and method 3 to work. Got it. I love that you said method 3. That's one of in IT, we talk about the 3 methods of internet navigation. We can definitely talk about that, especially because I kind of know, I have an idea of why that might not work. Doesn't always do what I expect. That's a great one. Difference between JAWS cursor and mouse cursor. Awesome. Efficient navigation got upvoted. We got a 1 upvote. Give you guys a couple more minutes so we can kind of see some more of this. Switching virtual cursor and PC cursor. Yes, we're going to go over that for sure in this webinar. Stuck and can't get to a random notification. Absolutely. Stuck is a big thing. I see many times when I'm working with a student or a client, getting stuck is like the thing, right? I'm stuck somewhere and I can't figure it out. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's the main thing we're going to talk about today. Specific question, how to click on the links in Zoom chat with JAWS. For sure, that is a very specific question. That might be something that if we have some time, I'll get to at the end. SR reading random information. Yes, reading random information for sure. Not seeing patterns needed to troubleshoot. I love that one. So it looks like this efficient navigation and stuck. Those are the ones that kind of got upvoted for sure. We're going to go over all of those in this webinar. So that gives me kind of a good idea as to what I should be focusing on. We're going to run to the next question. And this is something that I want to kind of explain to you before we even get into it. Why do we have more trouble with screen readers than our phones? And I'm going to give you a scenario here. A lot of times, if you've taken our intro course at IT, I run through the scenario with you in that if you download a new app, if you go onto I have my phone right here, right? It's an iPhone. If I go onto the App Store and I download a new application, that doesn't come with a user manual, does it? Right? And yet I'm still able to kind of navigate that app, and I don't really need to, I don't need a manual, right? We download all of these pieces of software all the time. We don't need a manual. We don't get stuck. We don't get, we don't have trouble accessing it. Why is that with a phone, we don't have any of these issues, but with a screen reader, why do we have these issues? Keyboard is not as intuitive as touching the screen. I love that one. Keyboards are not as intuitive as touching the screen, for sure. Why else? Why else? And if you agree with that, give it an upvote for sure. I think if I was on here, I'd give that an upvote. Yeah, so why is it that we have more problems with screen readers than our phones? You could say the same thing as if, why do we have more troubles with screen readers than a computer without a screen reader? Why are we able to kind of predict what's going to happen? They are a bridge rather than a source. Bridge rather than a source. Okay, got it. I see. That's like, it's like a way of accessing it rather than the actual content. Less consistency between computers and phones. For sure, they are different pieces of software and different devices. Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. One is mobile, has a built-in capabilities versus the CPU. They are a bridge rather than a source. I like that one too. And it looks like this less consistency between computers and phones is a big one. Yeah. And if of all of these are great. I love them. But this keyboards is not as intuitive as touching the screen for sure is one that sticks out to me as well. I'm going to leave this up. I'm going to just bring it down from full screen so you guys can continue answering. But I'm going to come back to this document. Okay. I come back to this document. The main reason that I kind of want to answer this question in my own way and kind of summarize what you guys said, because I think we're going to agree on this. But the reason why screen readers are so difficult for us and our students to wrap our heads around is because we don't understand the patterns that are involved in them. All right. One example that I do all the time, and if you've seen my intro course, you've seen this probably before. If I type in the word settings, right, and I do images, I'm just Google searching the word settings, and I do images, right? What do I get? I get a bunch of icons. They're all different, right? They're all different shapes. They're all different sizes. They're all different colors. But look, they all have this pattern where they show a gear, a gear, a gear, a gear, right? If I open my, if I'm on a Windows PC here, if I type in settings, right? And I open that up, right? What does it look like? Well, usually it shows a gear. I don't know why it didn't show it now, but you get my point is that even though all of these images are innately different, they all show a gear. Why is that? We understand that settings visually mean gears, or I'm sorry, we understand visually that gears mean settings. We understand that pattern. That is why when you download a new piece of software on your phone, you understand that the little magnifying glass means search. You understand what settings looks like. You understand what the little share button looks like, the little box with the arrow pointing up, right? These are all patterns that we have incidentally learned. Now, screen readers also have patterns, right? We just need to incidentally learn them, right? We just need to understand them, okay? And that's why a lot of times we have these issues is because there are patterns in screen readers that are fundamentally different. That's what whoever said and upvoted less consistency between phones and computers. They are fundamentally different patterns, okay? We just have to learn them, okay? Now, Jackie, do we have any questions or comments in the chat?
Not at this time.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. If you guys do have questions or comments about any of this, definitely throw them in the chat and we'll get to them. All right, so let me just take one more look at our poll just to see if I got everything. Cool. Everything is pretty much the same. All right. So we'll move on to our document. Now, this is where we kind of get into the real meat of this webinar. The first thing that I want to tell you about is I have this theory. It's a theory. It's an opinion. It's not fact. But my theory is that there are three main reasons why there might be an issue with a screen reader. I'm going to start from I've listed them 1, 2, and 3, right? Number 1, I think, is the most prevalent. It's the most common. And number 3, I think, is the least common. But I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start with number 3, the least common reason why we might have an issue with a screen reader. And that's a glitch, right? That's like a break in the code, or something that maybe the computer has run out of RAM and it's just we're overloading the RAM and for some reason the screen reader stops working, right? A glitch. I have a story for this as well. When I used to work at MSB, I used to have this student that at my job at MSB, I used to teach technology. So I'd have classes of students and we would all learn screen readers. And I had one student that anytime anything didn't work, he would say, "Oh, this is so glitchy," right? This glitchy computer, right? And of course, it wasn't a glitchy computer. It's just that he was having trouble with the content and actually knowing what to do with the screen reader, right? So a glitch, although it's really easy to say, "Oh, it wasn't a glitch. You just needed to know what we were doing." But I think we kind of do that as well as TVIs. It's very easy for us to say, "Oh, I don't know what to do here. It must be something wrong with the screen reader. There must be something wrong with the program, right? There must be something wrong." And in reality, it's not a glitch. Most of the time, screen readers are just as stable as other pieces of software. Most of the time, it's not a glitch. Well, what's the next most common reason why we might have an issue with a screen reader? This one is cited a lot too. It's inaccessibility. Now, I have a big rant about what does inaccessibility mean. I'm not going to go into it here because it's kind of a different topic. But for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to call inaccessibility, we're going to define it as incompatibility, all right? That the way that the screen reader works is incompatible with some program or website, right? They just don't fit together. For some reason, they don't work together, okay? A lot of times we call that inaccessibility. I'm going to call it incompatibility, right? It's not compatible. Now, this is definitely more common than a glitch, right? It's definitely more common that if you have an issue, it's due to an incompatibility or accessibility issue with the website or the program, right? But it's not as common, I think, as people think it is, right? A lot of times, especially in the past couple of years, we've now come into this era where there's so many things that are accessible using a screen reader. And that's really tribute to the people that are lobbying on Capitol Hill that are really fighting for accessibility rights and web accessibility. Organizations like the World Wide Web Consortium. These are organizations that have really fought for many, many years, and we're finally seeing that pay off. There's so many websites compared to 5 years ago that are accessible to our students. Now, we will find that there are things that are still inaccessible, of course, but it's not the most common reason we have an issue. What's the most common reason? It's that lack of familiarity, right? The lack of the familiarity in the patterns that we had talked about, okay? And that's the most common reason why we might have an issue, okay? Now, we're going to get to all of those 3 reasons in a second, but I just now want to take a break here and talk about if you do have an issue, what's the process you're going to go through, okay? And we're going to call this the troubleshooting process, right? Of course. The first thing is to remain calm, right? This is probably, if you don't remember anything from this webinar, remain calm is for sure number 1, right? Remember to remain calm. I have an analogy for this as well because I love analogies. I live in the city of Baltimore. If you live in a city, you know how difficult parking can become, or if you've ever been to a city, right? Think of like if you went to New York City or you went to Boston or you went to, if you have to park your car, you are going to, and it's in the middle of a workday or in the middle of a weekday, you're going to be riding around the block for at least a couple of minutes, right? Looking for that on-street parking, right? I had a friend that I used to live with in Baltimore, and he would ride his bike, so he never used to find parking. I had a car. I would always be looking for parking, right? There was one time that he was in the car with me, and we were roaming around Baltimore looking for parking. And he was like, how do you not get frustrated with this, right? How is this not frustrating, right? And I told him, if you get frustrated, then the city wins, right? If you get frustrated, then the city wins. And that is something that I really believe in screen readers as well. If you get frustrated, the whole lesson, the whole task, whatever you were trying to do, it's over, it falls apart, right? If you don't get frustrated and you say, this is a learning opportunity, this is a way that I can get more familiar. Oops, I tried to highlight that. More familiar, and as I start to ruin my document, more familiar with those patterns, right? It's an opportunity for me to get more familiar with these patterns. It doesn't matter if you can or cannot do the task. If you're learning something and you're taking it as an opportunity and you're remaining calm, you win, right? That's it. That's the entire thing. So remain calm. Then what we want to do is we want to develop a test. Okay. This one is pretty easy. For those people that said, when we answered that question, we asked that question, what are your pain points? The screen reader, I'm stuck, right? The screen reader is not reading. Well, if you're stuck, the test is you are unstuck, right? How will we know that it won't work? That you're unstuck, right? If the screen reader is not reading something, how will we know that we have solved the issue? Well, it starts reading something again, right? Try one idea at a time, right? A lot of people get frustrated because they have an issue. They understand how to get that test, right? And then they try a bunch of different things and it starts to work again. Well, the problem with doing a bunch of different things and not retesting, right? Doing 15 things and not going back to that test and saying, is it working? Is that great? You've got it working, but did you learn anything? Okay. No, not really. So if you develop a test and you say, I'm stuck somewhere. Okay. Well, let me try one thing. Am I still stuck? Yes. Okay. Let me try the second thing. Am I still stuck? Yes. Okay. Let me try the third thing. Am I still stuck? Oh no, I'm unstuck. Well, now I know that that was the third thing that I tried was the correct answer. If I am stuck and I do thing 1, 2, and 3, and now I'm unstuck, I don't know which one of those solutions was the solution, right? It could have been any one of them. So trying one thing at a time will cause this troubleshooting process to not happen over and over and over and over again. You'll start to learn which one of those solutions solves the problem that you keep having. And then of course, retest and repeat, which is what I said, right? You have a test, you say, I'm stuck, you find a solution. Does that solution work? No, it did not. You go to the next solution. Did that work? No, it did not. Go to the third solution. Did that work? Yep. Yes, it did. You retest and repeat. Okay. So that's the process that you would go through. Okay. Obviously, this is another story that I have, is I would teach this in my classes, this process of we're going to develop a test. We're going to try one thing at a time and we're going to retest and repeat. Now, if you are frustrated, I'm going to come back to this, remain calm. If you are frustrated with that, you start to get overwhelmed, you start to get flustered, you start to redo the same solutions over and over again, trying to see if there's a different response, right? And it still doesn't work. You get more frustrated. It doesn't work. You get more frustrated and you just end up in this vicious cycle. That is why remain calm is on top, because if you are not calm, steps 2, 3, and 4 will not work. Okay, cool. Now we get into the real stuff of this webinar. I just want to check time. And Jackie, is there any questions so far?
Nope, we had just had one comment that it was a
Sure.
great point, finding solutions that work one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you talk to anybody in the technology field, that's what they'll say is if you have an issue, you try one thing, you test. You try another thing, you retest. So yeah, one at a time for sure. All right. So now, if you come back next week, we're going to be doing the same thing on the Braille Note Touch, and we're going to try to keep this same analogy that I'm about to tell you. And that analogy is the keys and gates analogy. Okay. I want you to imagine that as you're going through this software, whether it's a screen reader, whether it's a Braille Note Touch, whether it's a phone, that anytime you run into an issue, it's a gate that we have to unlock. Okay. And we unlock that issue with what? We unlock them with keys. Okay. Well, what do we need in order to unlock these gates? Well, we need to have a bunch of keys on our key ring, right? Like a janitor, right? We have to have a bunch of keys. We have to understand how those keys work, but we also have to know which keys to try when. Okay. So what we're going to start with is I've just listed out the keys that we are going to be learning today. We're going to be going through these a little bit fast, just for the sake of time, so we can get to the end. But if there is any that you really, really want to focus on, definitely throw it in the chat, and me and Jackie will be kind of checking in. Okay. So the first thing that I want to tell you is the 3 methods of internet navigation. Now, of course, this 3 methods, again, is something that I came up with. This is not something that's in a screen reader manual. This is something that it's just a framework of how to efficiently navigate with a screen reader. Now, do you have to use the 3 methods framework? Absolutely not. Really, what that point means is you have to understand how to navigate a screen reader, okay? Whether you're using the 3 methods framework or whether you're using something else. I do want to show you, I do want to take that time to kind of show you if you're not familiar. Actually, you know what I can do is at the top of this, there's a click here for more resources. That's our website. That's IT's website. If you are interested in learning more about the 3 methods or just learning how to do internet navigation, if you go on there, you make an account, it's free. And then you enroll in our free intro course. It's this one, mini course, Introduction to Screen Reader Instruction. That first, and this is all free, that first module, the welcome module, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll have our screen reader skills progression, which is a great resource for teaching. But you'll also have our basic internet navigation cheat sheets. These are with NVDA, with JAWS, with Chromevox, and Conchita Hernandez, who's at MSB, and she works as the MSD liaison. She actually, with her organization, translated the NVDA worksheet into Spanish. I'm sorry, into Spanish. So that's there as well. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you're not familiar with the 3 methods of internet navigation, this is a great place to start. It kind of gives you all of the key commands that you need for internet navigation. And then also, if you see, there's a troubleshooting guide on each one. So it says, if you get lost, this is what you should do. This is kind of a brief way of doing what we're doing in this webinar. Okay. So that's just kind of that. If you are interested in internet navigation, we're not doing it in this webinar, but that's kind of where you go to get more information on that. Okay. Now, switching program focus, that's another key. These are all things that are going to help us in troubleshooting. If you're not sure about switching program focus, what that means is that your programs are stacked up on top of each other on a computer, right? So for example, if I switch my program, currently my program focus is on this document. But if I switch my program focus, you can see I can go to Zoom, I can go to PowerPoint, I can go to FS Reader, which we're gonna look at all of these, right? Switching that program focus is going to be one of the keys that is going to really help us in troubleshooting a problem. It's one of those things that a lot of times, if you're stuck or if it's not reading something, it's because that program focus is focused incorrectly. Now, in order to do that, you're gonna hold down Alt and you're gonna press Tab. All right, I'm holding down Alt the entire time. If I let Alt go, it's going to switch to that program, okay? So I'm holding down Alt, pressing Tab. If I wanna go to the next program, Tab. If I wanna go to the next program, Tab. And then once I'm on the program I want, let go, it switches to that program, okay? A lot of times, as we'll see, program focus is one of the main sticking points, one of the main keys to opening some of those gates, okay? Any questions, Jackie, on program focus or internet navigation?
Nope, not at this time.
Awesome. All right, I'll keep going then. The next key that I put on here is activating and deactivating your PC cursor. Now, this is something that I think I saw in the poll as well. For this, I'm going to turn on, I think I'll turn on JAWS for this one. Oop, as I misspell. I'm going to turn on JAWS here. Let's see if it comes up.
JAWS Home Manual.
Jackie, you can hear that?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. All right.
The trouble with screen readers :
So activating and deactivating our PC cursor. Now, what does this mean? There is a lot of technical information as far as what does that mean to deactivate and activate your PC cursor. Really what it means is you're telling JAWS, you're telling NVDA, you're telling your screen reader what to focus on, okay? Are we going to be focused on the HTML? Are we going to be focused on something else? Okay. You don't really have to know a lot about the PC cursor. You just have to know that it's an important way to navigate your screen reader. Okay. If something is not working, this is going to be one of the keys is you want to turn on your PC cursor or you want to turn it off, whether or not you want to just kind of switch it. Okay. It's going to sound like this.
Cap Z. Caps lock off.
Apparently I'm using desktop mode. That's fine.
Off. On.
Okay. So I'm turning
off. On.
I'm turning my PC cursor on and off. Okay. Now, how do you do that? The key command for that is, and I put these key commands in the keys, you're going to use your JAWS key. On a desktop, it's insert. On a laptop, it's caps lock. You're going to hold down that JAWS key and press Z. Okay.
Off. On.
Okay. A lot of times, if you switch that PC cursor, whatever you were trying to do might start working. Okay. For NVDA, that means that you also switching that PC cursor is kind of embedded into switching modes. Okay. So if you want to turn on and off the PC cursor, you have to switch modes. Okay. If I had NVDA on right now, I'll show you this in a second. It would be the NVDA key and space would change modes. It's the same thing as changing your PC cursor. You're telling what NVDA what to focus on. Okay. Same thing. That goes down to, and for this, I'll turn off JAWS and I'll turn on
Chrome button menu.
Whoop.
Customize and control Google Chrome.
Turn on
Post
NVDA.
attendee -zoom. JAWS up. JAWS home manual. JAWS home manual. Alt F4. Enter.
So switching modes is also another thing. For JAWS users, you might be familiar with this as forms mode. Okay. If you want to switch into forms mode or out of forms mode, it's going to be escape to switch out, enter to switch in. You might be at this point wondering, what does all of this even mean? When do I use it? We'll get to it in a second. Okay. I just want to make sure we have these keys before we start to talk about the gates that they unlock. Okay. For NVDA, switching modes is NVDA key plus space. Okay. It's going to sound like, well, let me turn on NVDA. There it is.
Taskbar.
All right. If I want to switch modes in NVDA,
The trouble with screen.
it's the NVDA key and space. Sounds like this. All right. So that's kind of fun. All right. So I'm switching back and forth between modes. So I'm holding down NVDA key, caps lock on laptop, insert on desktop, and space. All right. So I'm just switching back and forth. That's going to control how my screen reader controls the computer. Switching regions. This is something that a lot of people don't know, but it's really, really helpful. If you want to switch regions in a browser or in a program, F6. A lot of times people get stuck up in this taskbar, and I'm going to show you that in a second. And it's going to look like this. All right.
Spelling and grammar.
Oh, I
Document.
might have
Out
hit
of
the
table
wrong
list
key.
1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Address and search bar edit.
A lot of times people get stuck up in this taskbar.
Send this. Create zoom. Book extension. Info button. Chrome menu. Back buttons. Reload button. View
I'm
site
pressing
information.
tab and it doesn't get me to the document. If you want to get out of this out of this top bar, right, you have to switch the regions, and that is F6. 4, 5, 6.
Tab control. Bookmarks toolbar. Application. Address and search. Tab control. Bookmarks. Application.
Now I'm in the application. Now I'm back in my document. Okay. Now, last one. If you want to move up to a menu or move out of a menu, is Alt. So if I press Alt right now,
Chrome menu button submenu.
now I'm stuck in my menu. All right.
Back button. Reload. View. Send this.
Stuck in my top bar. Okay. Knowing that controls Alt, that's a really important part of navigating a screen reader. How do I get back? F6. Finally, I know this was very fast.
Application. Document. List 1. From address and tab control. Bookmark. The trouble with screen readers. A guide to.
Beautiful. I know this
Braille
is very
support enabled
fast.
enough.
If you have any questions on that, hold them for a second because we might answer them in a second. But if you do want to go back, I put all the key commands to all of this in the document for a reason. Okay. Now you might be wondering, trying to wrap your head around this. What does this all mean? Honestly, you don't need to know as much of what this means as just these are things to try. Okay. So even if you don't know what a PC cursor is, even if you don't know what modes are, even if you don't know what regions are, these are at least key commands to try when you run into an issue. As you start to troubleshoot issues with these keys, you'll start to get a sense of which ones work when. Okay. Now, The last one, of course, I want to mention is Google. Okay. Google is your best friend. Troubleshooting is just a learning process. Okay. So if you have any issues that these key commands, let me turn
Exit
off NVDA. If you have any questions that these key commands do not answer, you want to Google it. Okay. Also, I say Google as a general statement, but you can also email a colleague. You can also use your resources. You can also, use anything out there to try to help solve this problem. But as a general rule of thumb, you can always Google something. All right. A lot of times, before we even move on to the next thing, a lot of times when I do a key command or when I am teaching, a lot of times I'm guessing these key commands. Why? Because I've learned, at least a little bit, which keys work when and which patterns work when. So then when something happens, you don't really have to Google it. You just have to guess one of the key commands. And a lot of times, once you start to do it a lot, you start to get the answer right. Okay. Now, when do we use these keys? At which gates do we try to open them? Before we move on, Jackie, is there any questions in the chat?
You know what? I have somebody, Carlton Walker has her hand raised. So
Sure.
I'm thinking she might have oh, wait a minute. Her hand went down. So I don't know if she pressed a button by accident. Because I was
Gotcha.
allow her to talk because maybe I was thinking she had a question that she just was too long to type.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
But I think oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I got a Q&A. Here we go. Oh, okay. We're good. We can move on. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, awesome. So when do we use these keys, right? And this is where this table comes in. Now, the first thing, if you're a sighted user, the first thing you might notice is that these keys are color coded, okay? And the color coding is related to the 3 reasons why we might have an issue. As you can see, a lot of them are the lack of familiarity. We're going to be mainly going through these, but I do want to start at the bottom, right? I want to start with the glitch, all right? If it is a glitch, right? If we've gone through all of our lack of familiarity troubleshooting tips, if we figured out that the site is inaccessible, if it's a glitch, what do? This is going to be something that you are that probably everybody is familiar with. Restart the program, restart the screen reader, restart the computer. That's what you do. If you've tried everything in the book and it's a glitch, right? And it's still, you're stuck, you can't do anything with it. That's when you call IT and they say, have you restarted your computer? That's what they're trying to do, right? So restart the program, restart the screen reader, restart the computer. That's what you do when there's a glitch. As you can see in our 2 main problems, they're exactly the same. So if there's a glitch when if it's not reading something, or if it's a glitch when you're stuck, it's the same solution, right? If the program is inaccessible, I'm moving just up this table. What do? It's nothing you can do. You find an alternative, right? That's the job of a TVI, right? You find something that's inaccessible. Okay, well, how can we do the exact same thing using something else, right? It's inaccessible. So those are the boring ones, right? If it's a glitch and if it's inaccessible, we do the same things. But what can we help you with in this webinar? Well, we can help you with that lack of familiarity section. Okay, so what do? Now we're going to start with when you're stuck somewhere. Okay, we have our possible cause and we have our solution. The possible cause are in the form of a question. So this is a practice that you can go through with your students or with your clients or by yourself. You can ask yourself these questions and try the solution in there, okay? Just kind of running through. Are you stuck? If you're stuck somewhere, are you stuck on an element? That means, are you stuck, for example, the person in that in the poll said that you're stuck on a random notification, okay? Well, if you're stuck on a random notification or a dialog box, escape or tab might be able to help you out. Escape meaning that a lot of times, here, I'll show you it for a second. A lot of times users will get, a very common one, will get stuck up in the address bar and they'll try to down arrow key. Well, what happens then is it opens a combo box and now I can't get out. I'm using my up and down arrow key. I'm using my left and right arrow key. I'm tabbing, right? The only way I can get out of this is with the escape key, okay? All right, so if you're stuck on an element like that, escape or tab is what you want to use. if you're stuck in a region, right? If you're stuck in a region, I'm going to show you that with NVDA in a second. The really common one,
Task.
being stuck up in this top bar, right? Being stuck up in this top bar. I'm going to show you that again. Oh, I need to switch my program focus.
Meeting controls. The trouble.
How did I know that? Because nothing was happening. So that's a good view of live troubleshooting. So I switched my program focus, but I'm going to show you if I'm stuck up in that top bar. I'm going to show you that
menu
again.
Buttons up.
I pressed Alt. I went up to the Chrome menu. Now, if I try to tab, if I'm trying to get back to this document,
Back buttons. Reload button. Reload this page.
I'm tabbing through.
View site information. Address insert. Send this page. Create QR. Zoom.
All right, that's not working. I'm trying to down arrow maybe. Nothing happens when I down arrow. I'm stuck in this region. What do? Well, the chart says F6, right? So I'm going to just press that F6 key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Tab control. The trouble with screen readers.
There's the tab control.
Bookmarks toolbar.
Bookmarks.
Application.
And there's the application. Now I'm in my document.
Row
Okay?
4 list. Row 3 list. Are you stuck in A?
All right. So that's if you're stuck in a region. Are you in the wrong mode? This is such a great thing that even my advanced screen reader users, it's always like, it's just like the restart the computer. Are you in the wrong mode? And they're like, oh, I'm in the wrong mode, right? A lot of times when we're in Google Docs and it's not reading, right? It's going to sound like this.
Heading level 1, heading level, the Maryland Regional, heading level 1, heading level 1A
It's
guide.
not reading anything except for just my headings, right? The reason is, and my cursor is not moving. The reason is I'm in the wrong mode. I just switch my modes.
Out of table blank. Table with 15 rows and 3.
And it's reading again, okay? So are you in the wrong mode? Again, there's our key commands. I won't read them again. Do you have your virtual PC cursor on or off? Do you need to turn it on or off, all right? Same thing. If you're with JAWS, it's turning on and off that PC cursor. NVDA, it's just switching modes, okay? Switching modes will turn on and off that PC cursor. As you saw when I turned on NVDA, am I on the right program or do I need to switch my program focus, right? That's Alt and Tab.
Chrome menu.
I don't want to give away my scenarios. I was about to give away one of the scenarios that's at the end. Hopefully we have enough time to do that. And then finally, are you in a menu or do you need to get to a menu? And that's with the Alt. All right. So if I press Alt,
Chrome.
A lot of times this happens in Microsoft Word is that you get stuck up in the ribbon. If you press Alt, it'll bring you back down to
application
to the bottom. Okay. Alt or Escape is to get out of a menu. Okay. That's if you're stuck somewhere. Now, if it's not reading something, you'll see a lot of these keys are the same, right? Are you in the wrong mode, right? NVDA plus space. That will help if something is not reading, just like I showed you with Google Docs, right? Are you in the wrong mode? That will bring you back. It'll be able to read that content on the screen sometimes. Do you need to turn on and off the PC cursor, right? Are you on the right program? Are you in a dialog box? That's that notification, right? If you're in a dialog box, a lot of times you're trying to find that cancel button or switch your program focus, depending on how that dialog box or notification is coded in the computer, okay? Now, the last thing that I'll say before we get to some of our scenarios. Oh, here, let me do this.
Speech mode off.
There we go. A lot of the last thing that I want to show you or tell you before we get to our scenarios is if you go through all of those lack of familiarity causes and solutions, it might be inaccessible. And if you know it's accessible, then it's probably a glitch. Okay. That's why we kind of did it from top down. All right. Now comes the fun part. We have about 15 minutes left. Jackie, do we have any questions before we move on to our scenarios?
No, we do not.
All right, awesome. If you do have any questions about all of this, I know this is a lot, guys, put it in the chat. Don't be shy. I'm okay getting derailed. So the first thing that I want to show you in our scenario, and this is where we get to put stuff in the chat, all right? So we get to fill up this chat box, is skipping the article. I have NVDA on. I'm just going to switch to this article I have open. All right. This is something that I see a lot of the time. Okay. A lot of the time I see students or teachers. Whoa. I don't know why that refreshed.
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk.
Saying, oh, it's not accessible. It's not able to read this article. And what they do is they just use the tab key. Okay.
Present button collapsed. Save article button.
Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to the title of the article and read the article. right now it's at the buttons below the title, and I'm just going to try to get to that article using tab.
Read aloud button collapse, share button collapse, hide button collapse, print button collapse, add to text set, complementary landmark activities, clickable article comedian Kevin.
And then it jumped, what just happened is it jumped all the way past the article. It skipped the entire article and it went all the way to the bottom. Now, somebody could say that this is inaccessible. Is that right? No, it's perfectly accessible. But what's the issue? What do you think the issue is, guys? Any guesses? If there's no, also, if you're wrong, it's totally okay. And also, if there's no guesses, that's fine too. I can tell you the answer. Any guesses, Jackie?
While you have everybody thinking, somebody had asked me, they
Sure.
don't know a way to access the document that you're showing with JAWS. Is there a way to do so, or can you email it to this
Yes.
person? Okay.
Well, I can do a couple of, you can try a couple of things. The first thing that you can try is that you need to make sure that you have accessibility, or I'm sorry, screen reader support enabled. And that key command is Control Alt and Z, and it should say screen reader support enabled, and then make sure that your PC cursor is off. Okay.
From Meredith Teets to everyone.
And let me turn off this
Speech mode off.
speech. So those are some things that I can try. If they still can't access it, I can definitely email it afterwards. Okay. So if whoever that was, if you put your email in the chat, and Jackie, if you give that email to me afterwards, I can definitely email it.
And then someone had made the comment, wrong element, not sure difference with element or region.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha. So if that's a question of what's the difference between an element and a region, that's a really great question. An element is one thing on the internet. So that might be a link, a heading, a piece of text, a button, right? These are all elements. Whereas a region, for example, is an entire group of elements. It's what the programmers say, like these elements are grouped together. The example of that is this top bar, right? This top bar has a bunch of elements. It has the back arrow, it has the forward arrow, it has the refresh button, it has the address bar, it has the little extension thing that I don't know the name of, it has my account profile. There's lots of elements, but they're all grouped together in a region. Now, if you're stuck on an element, it's a little bit different. You would try different things. For example, you might try escape, or you might try tabbing away from it. Versus if you're stuck in a region, a lot of times the reason for that is because you need to just navigate away from that region, and that key command is F6. Now, if you're saying that in this scenario, I am going through using the wrong element type, absolutely, that's the reason. A lot of times, and this is what our kids will do, or our screen reader users will do, is they'll just use tab to find everything. Well, that problem with that is that tab only goes over things that are clickable. What we know about articles is that this title is not clickable. If I click on it, nothing's going to happen, right? So that tab is going to skip over not only the title of the article, but the article itself. And that comes from really being familiar with the methods of navigation, and really trying to look at some of these resources and saying, oh, okay, I understand why I'm skipping that article, because you know what? Oh yeah, the article and the title are not clickable objects, and that's what tab goes through. Okay, so that's kind of the answer to that first scenario. Okay.
I got another question real quick.
Absolutely.
Pressing R another way to move by regions in JAWS. In testing, that's one of the keyboard commands we've used.
Yes. So that is a different, I guess I should have used a different word. Regions and landmarks are different HTML element types, or ARIA element types. Okay. So if you are on a website, for example, what's a good example? Okay. So let me give you a website example here. I use an app with my kids called Todoist. I wonder if I can log in with this. Log in. I might not be able to log in, but I use a website called Todoist. All right. And it's a to-do list app. And what those developers do is they say, it's kind of the same thing that I just described, is they say these groups of elements are together, and these groups of elements are together, and these groups of elements are together. With that, when a website developer has decided that something is a region or a landmark, yes, if you're in JAWS, you navigate those regions with R. Now, what I am talking about is a little bit different, in that a region of a program all right, or a browser, you can navigate with F6. So for example, so that R key command is only on the internet and only on a website. But this F6 command is a region of a program. I'm going to give you a couple of examples because I kind of thought this was going to come up. I just want to make sure I have
speech mode beeps, speech mode talk.
There you go. All right. So another example of this is in PowerPoint.
Post attendee Zoom Google FS inverse.
So I have a PowerPoint open here, right? Now I'm not on the website. I'm not on the internet, right? I can't use R. If I use R, it doesn't work, right? Because that's it's an internet key command. But if I want to navigate between the ribbon, between the slide view, the big slide here, and the film strip, right? The group of slides, I can use F6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Slide 2, slide view, pane, status pane, ribbon tabs, tab control expanded.
Ribbon.
Slide 2 notes page.
There's the notes page.
Slide 2 of 13.
There's the slide.
Slide 2, slide view.
And then here's the slide
Slide
view.
3.
Okay, so I'm navigating between the regions of the program. Again, just to
From more
reiterate
Schindler
this,
to all panel.
if you're navigating regions of a website, it's R. If you're navigating regions of a program or the browser, it's F6. Okay, so that's a really good question.
Speech mode off.
Any other questions, Jackie?
No, but one of our participants said, thank you so much for your great explanation. So that question about pressing R.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really good question. And something that I should have called it something else because I can see why that would be confusing. Oh, well, for next time. The second scenario that I wanted to show for you guys was stuck in the address bar. And I kind of already gave that away. But if I'm stuck in that address bar, and this is something that happens all the time, and it really threw me when I was a new teacher teaching screen readers.
Speech mode beeps, speech mode talk.
I want to show it to you again just because it's so prevalent.
Chrome menu buttons.
A lot of times you'll hit that Alt command, you're up in the menu now, right? You're up in that top bar, right? And now if I press Tab or down arrow key,
back button, sub menu, reload button, view site information, address.
I'm moving through this region. I'm stuck there, right? How do I get out? F6. Same thing that we just talked about.
Tab control.
Oops.
The trouble with bookmarks tool application.
Now I'm back in the document. Okay. Navigate, not reading a Google Doc, right? How do we do that?
Space selected.
A lot of times it's that screen reader support is not enabled, like I just said. The way that you can tell that is that if there's an accessibility menu up there, that screen reader support is enabled, right? And if it's not enabled, you can just do Control-Alt-Z.
Unselected. Screen reader support disabled.
You can see I just disabled it. I do Control-Alt-Z again.
Braille support enabled.
Braille support enabled. I don't know why it said Braille support enabled. Screen reader support enabled. Same thing. Also, if it's not reading in a Google Doc, switch your mode, check your PC cursor, all of the things up here, okay?
3 of 3. Zoom.
Oh.
Zoom. 75%
got a little crazy
alert.
With the Zoom for a sec. And then the Google Meet cannot move after screen sharing. Let's see how much time we got. 7:56. All right. I do want to show, well, maybe.
Anonymous Turtle has left the document.
All right, let's see.
Speech mode off.
What I do want to show you as kind of, well, I don't know. Are there any questions, Jackie, before we end?
No, we don't have any questions right now.
All right, I'll show you this video really quick that I recorded today because I wanted to show you something that is an issue that is with Google Meet that is really, really common. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. I don't know where it went. All right. Well, I don't know where I threw it. This was just something that I did right before, so I wanted to see. But if there aren't any questions, definitely throw them in the chat as we start to wrap up. But the one thing that I want to show you guys is the main thing with this is really being familiar with these patterns, right? Number one, not freaking out, and also understanding the screen reader and how to navigate efficiently. Just as a little plug, if you have not seen kind of our website and what we do, the first thing that I would tell you is to get this, sign up for this intro course, this free intro course. You'll get all of our screen reader cheat sheets, get those methods of internet navigation. It's totally free. Also, when you sign up, if I back out here to my courses, you'll have this little tab up here called free resources. Oh, that link apparently is broken. But if you go onto that free resources website tab, which I'll fix it after this. But if you go onto that free resources tab, you'll get a bunch of free resources, videos, things that we've done for free over the past year, including our YouTube channel, all that different stuff. In addition, we also have in 2 weeks, on the 29th of February, we have our new screen reader curriculum opening up for enrollment. There's a student edition, as you see here, and an instructor edition, okay? The student edition has all of the all instructional videos, practice problems, quizzes, tests, everything that you need to understand the 3 methods of internet navigation. And then that instructor edition, which is completely new, also has data sheets, lesson plans, everything that you need as an instructor to teach screen reader navigation to your learner. It has a bunch of the stuff that we've talked about in this webinar in it, but it also has really the fundamentals of how you get started using a screen reader, okay? If there aren't any questions, I guess we'll start to wrap up. Yeah, go.
I do have some things.
Sure.
I'm going to launch a poll so that everybody can be taking this poll.
Absolutely.
As I'm saying this, but you are fantastic, Cody. I'm loving your screen reader basic internet navigation course.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
And please tune in next week where he'll be here same time, same place, but talking about troubleshooting for the Braille No Touch.
Yes.
Someone had requested you keep looking for the Google Meet video. This is a problem for us all the time. This person said they'd stay on. And
absolutely.
Then, we had another question. I have taken a couple courses and I was wondering if I can revisit them after I finished them.
Taking a couple of courses with us. I wonder if they mean that. If they do mean that, then yes, absolutely. So once you finish, if you take any of our asynchronous courses, or if you do the screen reader curriculum, you'll have that for life. So as long as you keep your account, it shouldn't go anywhere. You can go back and revisit it. It's mainly there. It's there as a course, but because we're rebranding it as the screen reader curriculum, because we really want it to be an instructional tool more than a course. Of course, you're learning with that instructional tool, but we want you to keep that course, keep that screen reader curriculum so that if you have a student come back, or if you have a new student that needs to learn a screen reader, you can go back to that curriculum and use the same content to teach them and refresh your own skills. Yeah, let me as people take that, let me see if I can find that Google Meet video. The only reason I can't do it real time is because, of course, I'm sharing my screen on Zoom. There it is. I found it. All right. So if you do want to see this video, I will share this now. And I'll kind of ask you all what you think. And then, of course, I'll give you that answer. All right. So I'll start here. Just let me know, Jackie, if you can hear the sound.
Will do.
Meet Google Chrome, Cody. I.T personal. Meet document.
Beautiful.
Nothing.
So right now, just to set up the scenario, I'm on a Google Meet, or I'm on the homepage of Google Meet. I'll enter the meeting.
Scheduled today. Semaphore. Join or start a meeting. Join or start a meeting dialog.
So now it's asking me the meeting code.
MEETING. Dialog. Join or start a meeting. Join. Alert camera. Alert camera is off. Turn off.
I got to go to that join now button.
Join now button. You have joined the call.
And of course, now I'm on the call. Now the point is for me to share my screen. So I'm going to tab over to present now.
Frame about blank. View site address and meet chat activities blank blank. Clickable turn off leave call but turn on raise hand turn on caption present now menu expanded.
Now I'm going to say expanded. That menu comes up. I'm going to do my entire screen.
Menu. Present now your entire screen. Meet.google.com is sharing your screen. New notification from Google Chrome. You're presenting to everyone.
And this is the point where I'm stuck, right? I can't do anything, okay? Obviously, this is not in real time, so I can't show you that I can't do anything, but at this point, people get stuck. Now, if there's anybody still in the call watching this, what would be your guess? Just taking a look at that worksheet that we had. I'm sitting here trying to click the video like it's a tab. Taking a look at that table. Take a look at that. You're stuck somewhere. Look at the causes. Look at the solutions. What would be some things that you try in this scenario? What would be some things that you try in this scenario? Jackie, let me know if we get anything in the chat.
Will do.
I'll give you guys a few minutes.
I got a control tab, F6, alt tab, escape.
Yeah. These are all really great keys. Absolutely. I would try all of these. But the one thing that kind of tips me off about this is that, and this is kind of just when you understand how this works, you're like, oh, I get what the issue is. I am focused on a region, and you can see that with my blue box down here, right? But how that region is coded is an entire new window, okay? What that window says is it says you're sharing your screen, stop sharing, right? That is a totally new window that has popped up once I shared my screen. How do I get away from that entirely new window? I switch my program focus. I alt tab, okay? If I alt tab, I can switch between that little tiny Google Chrome window and the actual Google Chrome window. I'll play the video so you can see how this works.
Meet.go RxH desktop content shared Google.
And that is how I get back to my Google Meet. All it is switching your program focus. All right. So this is a good scenario of how using that worksheet, using what we talked about today, and using these things. If you were stuck somewhere and you honestly just went down this list, eventually you'd get to Alt Tab and your problem would be solved. Okay. All right. Awesome. Do we have any questions? Any last questions, Jackie, before we wrap up?
No, we do not.
All right, awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Oh, we got a fantastic. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to send a follow-up email with our with links so you can register for his next 2 webinars. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.